Don't get relaxed just yet because the COVID-19 impact is far from over. Hello, I'm Julian Reid and we're with you live. Those words coming from health officials today, reminding us and stressing that we're still feeling the effects of COVID-19 in the Bahamas. And we're going to have details of that in a bit. But first, let's give you the latest statistics from up to this morning. Of course, the Bahamas stats usually come up at 4 o'clock, so these are the statistics up to this morning. We've got 65 cases, 12 people have recovered, 654 people are in quarantine, and there have been 9 deaths. In the region, the Dominican Republic's numbers continue to climb. 5,300 cases, 260 deaths, 581 people have recovered. Jamaica, 233 cases, 6 deaths. 27 people have recovered. Trinidad and Tobago, 115 cases, 8 deaths, 37 people have recovered. Bermuda, where they're seeing an increase, that's pretty marked. 98 cases, 5 deaths, 39 people have recovered. Barbados, 75 cases, 5 deaths, 25 people have recovered. Haiti's moving up a little bit with 58 cases, 4 deaths, 2 people have recovered. When we look at the global figures, more than 2.6 million people have confirmed cases of COVID-19 all around the world. There have been more than 181,000 deaths. More than 712 people have recovered. In the USA, the figure now stands at 828,641 cases, 46,123 deaths. 83,420 people have recovered. In Spain, 208,389 cases, 21,717 deaths. More than 85,000 people have recovered. Italy, 187,327 cases with more than 25,000 deaths and more than 54,000 people recovering in Italy. Well, Health Minister, the Honorable Dr. Dwayne Sands, says we are nowhere near seeing the end of the impact of COVID-19 here in the Bahamas. It's been 6 weeks since we recorded our first case here, but like other countries around the world, there is concern about a resurgence. That has been highlighted by the Center for Disease Control.
We list confirmed cases to date. So in the Bahamas, we've now had 65 confirmed cases to date. We then have a category of persons that have died, that's obvious, from COVID-19. And then you have the number of people who have recovered clinically and have had no evidence of viral shedding by testing. Now, not everybody who is recovering gets tested. There are clinical means of determining recovered, and there are laboratory means of determining recovered. But typically, it's about 4 to 6 weeks after an inpatient hospitalization for COVID to see laboratory-confirmed recovery. So the same way we had to confirm that you're a case, we had to confirm that you recovered. The first case of COVID diagnosed in the Bahamas in the lab was on March the 15th. Today, we're not even 6 weeks from that point. We're up to 12 recovered cases. We expect that there will be more. But you have heard and seen around the world that if you make the designation prematurely, you may be subjecting persons to risk.
Yesterday, BPL reporting some level of exposure to COVID-19 and their employees. What do you know of this development, and how are health officials addressing this issue?
So we have reliable information that a person confirmed with COVID and her family member would have gone to BPL ostensibly to pay a bill. That is clearly not what ought to have happened. If you are in quarantine, there's no reason for you to go out. And particularly given the fact that BPL has made it very clear that if you have a COVID-related problem, that they will grant special exception. People want to get outside. They will go for a drive. Oh, this won't hurt. Yes, it could potentially hurt. And so now we have an entire office that has to be sanitized because unfortunately somebody did something that was unreasonable and inappropriate.
You alluded to it earlier, but again, brief us on the islands here in the country where cases exist of COVID-19 or persons still in quarantine.
The majority of persons in quarantine are in New Providence, followed by Grand Bahama, and then Bimini and Cat Key. Many of the persons who are quarantined in Cat Key are no longer quarantined. And the majority, if not all, I need to confirm this with my surveillance staff, in Bimini should now have completed their quarantine. So the majority exist in New Providence, then secondarily Grand Bahama.
You previously mentioned Eleuthera. Is that island still being quarantined at any level?
I am not aware of anybody that is in active quarantine in Eleuthera today.
Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands speaking to Lloyd Allen there. Now in Grand Bahama, there have been no new cases of COVID-19 reported in 2 weeks, but the message remains the same. We're not out of the clear yet. Romiko Knowles has more.
The number of cases in Grand Bahama stands at 7. Chairperson of the Grand Bahama Task Force Health Services, Frank Bartlett, says it is unfortunate that 2 persons died and notes that the remaining 5 patients testing positive for COVID-19 showed mild symptoms and did not require extended hospitalization.
The 2 persons that were deceased were an 80-year-old male. He would have been in hospital for several days prior to this being deceased on April 4th. The second was a 51-year-old female who passed on April 6th. All of the other patients who have tested positive have been managed at home, and they're doing very, very well at home. One of the cases that are reported in the Grand Bahama figures is a patient that would have been transferred from Freeport into Nassau, so we're not having any direct care in that patient. But otherwise, our patients so far are doing very, very well.
The island's latest patient testing positive for COVID-19 is a 25-year-old male and is the son of the deceased patient that passed on April 6th. Bartlett says he too is doing well and should be released later this week.
One of the things we want to reiterate from Grand Bahama Health Services is that even though we have only 7 patients, this is no time to be relaxing our public health and our social measures. The public health measures basically means that you still want to be doing hand washing, the cough etiquette. We are required to wear a mask whenever we're out in public, and we want to make sure we adhere to that part of it. As it relates to social measures, we want to enforce, again, minimizing travel. We're supposed to be on lockdown. We want to be making sure that we maintain our social distance. That has been reiterated over and over by from the political side and also from the health arena.
Now, while the lockdown measures seem to be having a positive impact mitigating community spread, Bartlett says there are some challenges and they're in need of the public's assistance.
At times when we are called from home, we don't get a very clear representation as to what the call is about. And sometimes the calls, we get a call, for example, for some minor ailment to find that they would have had chest pain or shortness of breath. Or we find that when they're being interviewed, the story is completely different from what they would have given the ambulance department. The healthcare workers are on the front line. They need to know exactly what they're dealing with when they go to pick up patients. So it's very, very important that as much as possible you represent exactly what the problem is when you are calling for assistance from the healthcare workers.
Over the past 2 weeks, he says the majority of calls coming into the health services and EMS hotline has been non-COVID related. On average, he says they may receive about 4 to 6 calls per day with persons complaining about respiratory illnesses. Romiko Knowles, ZNS Network News.
Now, the National Insurance Board pumping millions into the economy to keep it and Bahamians afloat. Well, for March alone, the figure reached $67 million. Altaviz Munnings has the details.
The long lines at the National Insurance Board that made national headlines last week have totally been diminished. Director of NIB, Dr. Nicola Virgil-Roll, telling reporters during an online press conference Tuesday that she credits the diminishing of those long lines to the hardworking staff at NIB. She also gave the media an update on the thousands of applications that have been processed for the unemployment benefit.
We look at around 18,000 have now been processed at looking to have a payout of $8.7 million. So since the Prime Minister would have made his his statements, we have done even more over the weekend. Our staff have continued to work in order to get out even more of those. We still have a few thousand left, and we're getting in new claims from the Department of Labor as well. And so we're just making sure that, and cross-referencing those to make sure there's no duplicates there. But we have gotten in some claims that we're working on from there.
The NIB director specified that the unemployment benefit is paid to compliant NIB contributors, while the government-sponsored unemployment assistance program targets tourism and non-tourism workers.
We have had 7,771 applications when I looked at the dashboard this morning. Of those, we have approved 4,117, and we had 863 pending, and of course the remainder are denials. We have had duplicate applications, so people have been denied and then they reapply. The grand total of things are around just under 4,000 people who are part of the system. As of Friday, when we did our last, we call it the check run, we paid at about $1.96 million for the unemployment assistance program.
Dr. Virgil Roll also listed the total amount of payments made for both programs.
We projected about $16 million extra per month to fund these programs, and so we're just under that now in terms of the monthly, what would have amounted to 4 weeks of payments per month. And then, of course, that we take that out for 4 months or so. And so, we're looking at over $60 million additional to what would have been normally budgeted. We normally budget for about 6,000 to 7,000 unemployment claims per year. That's what we process. And now we've had, 17,000, 18,000 in the last 2 weeks.
Altaviz Munnings, ZNS Network News.
Well, Acting Controller of the Department of Inland Revenue, Gaynell Rowe, clarifying the terms of government's newly implemented tax credit and tax deferral system. She explained that it is designed to assist employers with a turnover in excess of $3 million annually and a staff complement of 25 people or more to cushion the burden of payroll costs.
Each approved business has a monthly allocation of up to $200,000 for a period of 3 months, April, May, and June, giving a cumulative total of some $600,000 available. The approved tax relief is to make available to businesses on a monthly basis a 50% non-reimbursable credit, some would call it a write-off, of qualifying payroll expense the employer would have for that month. Secondly, to treat the remaining 50% as a deferred finance-free payment plan for payments which will not begin until January 2021.
Well, Ms. Roll also said that to facilitate the process, businesses can withhold any business license fees and thereafter any value-added tax owed on the amount of the monthly approved tax relief known as the ATR.
Should the ATR be in excess of the current withholdings, it can be applied at any future time. It is important to note, however, that the ATR is calculated monthly based on the non-executive payroll. It's a 50-50 plan and not an option of either or a tax credit or tax deferral. The approved tax release does not have an expiry date for use by the business.
There are a lot of disappointed people in Exuma today. That's because the Exuma National Regatta is supposed to take place. But we're going to go live to Exuma right after this.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
School is closed, but we are not on vacation. Often check the Ministry of Education's social media platform for accurate updates on your studies and national exams. These include the website at www.ministryofeducationbahamas.com and the Ministry of Education's Facebook page at Ministry of Education Bahamas or Twitter at BahamasMOE. Do not listen to fake news. It's safer and smarter.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
Welcome back. The National Family Island Regatta should have been underway today, but there are no boats in Elizabeth Harbor this year. But we're going to go live to the Commodore of the Family Island Regatta, Mr. Danny Strawn. Good afternoon, Mr. Strawn.
Thank you, Julian. Good afternoon, Bahamas, and thank you for giving me an opportunity just to say a few words on what's happening here in Georgetown today.
My first question, has this ever happened in the history of the National Family Island Regatta?
No, it has not. The regatta has been going on for 67 years. But I must say, for historical purposes, the regatta was held outside of Exuma once in the 67-year history of the event, and that was in 1973 when the Father of the Nation, Sir Lyndon, asked the committee to have the regatta in Nassau as part of the independence celebration.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know that people understand why it's not happening and they can respect and appreciate that, but still, it must be very disappointing.
Well, it's just disappointing to a lot of people, but I think they fully understand the reason for the regatta not happening, this year. The decision made by the committee was an easy one, and also it was a tough one from the standpoint that everybody, particularly the boat owners, the sailors, the skippers, the vendors in Georgetown, the hotels, the car rental company, the apartments, everybody was prepared for this regatta, but it wasn't to be as a result of COVID-19. And the easy decision was the fact that the health of the nation and the people of the nation come first. And so we had to make the decision to cancel it. Many persons said to me, why cancel and not postpone it? The National Family Island Regatta is such a huge event, it's impossible just to postpone it. The planning, it takes a long, long while to put on a regatta like this, but you're talking about some 70 plus boats. A lot of logistic goes into doing that, hiring badges to get the boats, not only from Nassau, but from Abaco, Long Island, Andros, and the Exuma Keys. So it is a tremendous responsibility, and it's a tremendous thing to put it all together. But nevertheless, we realize that, it is what it is, and people will get over it, and tomorrow will be better than today.
But it's also a big money maker historically for Exuma. How much of a blow is that?
It's a huge blow. I can't tell you, but in terms of the kind of money that would have flown through this economy this week, I would say would be in a minimum of $5 million, because every single business, are being affected by, this, a closure. Well, not having the regatta, all the hotels, all the vendors, more than 35 plus vendors who are actually prepared for this, this day. But it's not to be, because a lot of them look forward to the fact that this is a time when they can make some money to pay a lot of their bills, school fees, mortgages, those people are working on homes, etc. So it's been a tremendous financial impact to the economy.
Other than through government assistance, how are Exumians now hoping to sort of fill in that fallout, that financial fallout, if you will?
Well, I think the government has some programs that are going to assist a lot of people, particularly those persons who are unemployed. And as you know, all of the hotels here, like in Nassau and Exuma, all the hotels are closed, and a lot of these people are out of jobs. And so I think the measures put in place by the government, the measures are pretty good, and through national insurance. So people have those venues in order to get some kind of help. And also, I think there's persons in the community who can afford to do it are helping a lot of people as we go along the way.
So, obviously, we've got to wait until the impact of COVID-19 is gone. But what's next? What's the next plan?
Well, the next plan is certainly we're looking forward to 2021, when the regatta hopefully will be held in. Hopefully, COVID-19 will be behind us. The economy would have opened back up and starting to make good progress. Hotels and sponsors would, come back on board again, and we can have a grand time next year in April 2021.
Well, Mr. Danny Strawn, thank you, and hopefully next year we'll be celebrating wonderfully in Elizabeth Harbor and throughout Exuma for the 68th National Family Island Regatta.
But, Julian, just one correction there. It would still be the 67th.
That's true, yeah. It's true.
Yeah,
it's
it
not
would still be the 67th.
It'll still be the 67th.
If you would permit me just to call the names of my hard working committees, there's two of them who really worked very hard during the past year to put this together. You have Clyde Rule, Eulami Morley, Roy Smith, Shirley Rule, Chris Cattell, Warren Rule, John Lawrence, Craig Seminid, George Smith and Philip Smith, and on the local side, you have Rennie Lawrence, Ken McPhee, Harold Crawley, Jackie Price, Randy Rule, Tamika Rule, Patience Ford, Perry Rule, Jermaine McKenzie, Almeida Ward, and Dallas Knowles. I call them because they work very hard to put this on, and everybody is disappointed, but we fully understand that the nation comes first, the health of the nation and the people of the nation takes priority this time of the year.
Best wishes to you and the people of Exuma. Be safe.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Well, our next guest is the head of the Bahamas Pharmaceutical Association. As you know, there have been limited times for people who need to go to pharmacies to do that. But let's find out how that has been working. We will soon be speaking with the head, who is Shantia McBride. But the hours have been limited throughout the day. I think it's from until 1 o'clock. Of course, on Saturdays, it is open for those special essential workers so that they can access it. We now have Shantia McBride with us joining via Zoom. Good afternoon, Ms. McBride.
Good afternoon.
Good. Now, how are you and your colleagues and your clients all adjusting to these new hours and new practices, I guess, if you will, as a result of COVID-19?
Well, as a result of COVID-19, we have had to adjust many changes due to the pandemic. So pharmacies had adjusted our hours of operations. Also, we've had to reduce staffing to ensure social distancing even among staff. So we've implemented sanitizing procedures within the pharmacies, such as hand washing, disinfecting counters, cash registers. Some pharmacies have installed the plexiglasses that would give a barrier of protection, additional barrier, between our customers, our patients, and our staff, our essential staff. We have the markers, 6 feet markers within the stores, so customers would know exactly where to stand. We only allow a certain amount of patients in at a time to ensure those policies are also adhered to. In reference to other, of course, our masks, staff and customers must enter and wear masks at all times. We also have policies in place. We're asking our customers to please call their preferred pharmacies to find out what filling measures and what filling options they have at this current time. Because physicians can call in a prescription, we can have it filled, pre-filled for them, and we have different options available at pharmacies, delivery, curbside, and different pickup to ensure that once you reach, your medication is already pre-filled, or the information is received by our pharmacy staff, and you're in and out to decrease exposure or your time within the pharmacy. So those are the in-store measures that we have had to make adjustments with in reference to hours of operations. But we want to tell the public that pharmacies are open. That's one thing. So there's no need to panic that your pharmacy isn't open or your pharmacy would not be able to fill your medication. As I said, just call your pharmacy and ask them to have it filled or pre-filled or or how your physician can get in contact with us. So that is the way we've been helping in store.
Any real challenges you and your colleagues have been experiencing?
The challenges we've been facing mostly have been in reference to, of course, stock supply. We always keep adequate stock on hand, medication-wise. We're not seeing any shortage of medication. Of course, there is a shortage due to cold and flu or disinfectant, sanitizing items that we're noticing out in the front store. I am pleased to say that our local and international distributors have been able to adequately supply necessary items that we would need. I want to say to the public to please trust your pharmacy and trust your pharmacist. It's not necessary to brand shop. We are at this moment making sure that we have all necessary items available. So if we would recommend it may be the same, not the same brand vitamin C, not the same brand disinfectant that you're used to, but we would consult with you and refer the right medication for you. So it's best to not brand shop at this moment due to scarcity of items, but just consult with your pharmacist to get the necessary item needed or vitamin needed.
Good. We know that you're open, etc., but, and I guess this is advice you would give to anyone in ordinary circumstances, but people shouldn't wait until the last minute, until their prescription is already run out, right? Yes. What other advice like that would you give to people?
Well, that is definitely the case. We have always advised our patients to also keep adequate stock on hand. Do not wait until you're on your last pill to refill your medication. As we said, medication stock has been adequate, and we have been in constant communication with our distributors to ensure that medications are continuously being on hand, but definitely always keep up with your medication.
Well, Shantia McBride, thank you so much for joining us, the president of the Bahamas Pharmaceutical Association. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and we'll have more for you after this.
COVID-19 continues to impact the Bahamas and the world.
The Ministry of Health has confirmed 5 cases of COVID-19 in the Bahamas.
ZNS Network is here to keep you informed on this growing pandemic.
We are in a race against time.
With team coverage, hourly updates, news, and special reports with information that is important to you. ZNS Network is your best choice for COVID-19 coverage. No other station covers the Bahamas better.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
School is closed, but we are not on vacation. We are staying at home to ensure we remain healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19. Remember to regularly and thoroughly wash hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Maintain a safe distance between you and someone else with a cough or sneeze. Remember, it's safer and smarter.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
Tell you a little bit about the coronavirus. The coronavirus is a little tiny invader that gets into your body and makes you really, really sick. Some people get over it, some people don't. This virus is so tricky, it makes you think you have the flu. So you may experience a high fever, difficulty breathing, and tiredness. But don't worry. Here are some steps to protect you from the coronavirus. Step 1, wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. If you don't have soap and water, use hand sanitizer. Step 2, if you need to cough or sneeze, do it in your elbow. Achoo! Step 3, avoid touching your eyes, your nose, and your mouth. Step 4, eat healthy foods to make you big and strong. Step 5, listen to your mommies and daddies to keep you safe from the coronavirus. Bye, be safe, stay inside.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Ministry of Health and Bahamas Information Services.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
School is closed, but we are not on vacation. The GLAT, BJC, and BGCSE examinations are still on. Use this time wisely by preparing for these national examinations. Remember, your success depends on you.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
IT, or information technology, is even more crucial now that we're in this COVID-19 world where we can't physically be in the same place. Today, it's getting started, an ICT conference that's been going on for the past few years that encourages young girls to become more adept in IT. And joining us via Zoom is Mavis Johnson-Colley, who is the Corporate and Consumer Relations Manager at IRCA and one of the organizers of the event. Good afternoon, Mavis.
Good afternoon, Julian. Good afternoon, Bahamas.
Great. Tell us about this year's event. It must be even more poignant now, considering what we're going through.
Certainly. In fact, as we were planning for this year's event, which is the International Girls in ICT Day, an initiative by the International Telecommunications Union, we've been observing the day in the Bahamas since about 2015. And about, I'll say, early March in our planning, we just, put on the agenda COVID-19 alternative and started saying, what if we can't get the students to come in from the Family Islands, not thinking that we would be completely shut down at the time. And so as soon as the government began issuing the curfew orders, we realized, we got to move into another zone of planning and recognize right away that this was a wonderful opportunity for us to show firsthand what it was that we were promoting from the ICT sector. And we are the regulator of ICT. Our partners, our licensees are top-notch at the cutting edge of technology and delivering services in that sector in the Bahamas. And so what a wonderful opportunity to take this initiative, to take this program where we encourage young ladies to explore career opportunities in ICT to the next level. And so we were very happy to immediately begin shifting focus.
Well, I imagine, because it is a virtual conference, that everyone is participating via Zoom, as are we. A couple of months ago, nobody knew what Zoom was, but everybody does now.
Yeah, like I said, we stepped it up. We do have an event manager working with us, great serendipity, and the licensees, partners, BPL, BTC, Alive, Cable Bahamas, and even ZNS quickly recognized the importance of taking the conference virtual. And we were able to get the support of our speakers who were all willing to be a part of this initiative. So tomorrow morning, the 23rd of April, the fourth Thursday every year is celebrated as Girls in ICT Day. We have, as of this moment, about 110 females, young students, between grades 9 to grade 12, who have already registered to participate in the online forum, where they will have an opportunity, as in past years, to win prizes, wonderful prizes. They will all receive an e-kit with some goodies in it. I won't spoil the surprise for them, but you have to register for it. And that starts at 9. We have about 6 short 5-minute presentations by speakers such as Zena Hutchinson, Reese Demerit, Olga Russos, Alison Middleton. We have the young lady who used social media in such a tremendous way during the rescue operations of Hurricane Dorian, Alea Hagigal. And then at 1 p.m., Julian, there will be a live virtual panel discussion where the participants will be able to ask questions of our presenters live and get an opportunity to win, like I said, prizes. And so we are really, really excited. We're encouraging all young persons, there's still time to register, to go to IRCA's Facebook pages or go to the Facebook pages of any of the partners, and they will see the directions for registration. You will only receive the e-kit if you register.
Well, that sounds really exciting, but let me ask you this, because it should be obvious, but just make sure that people understand why it is so important for females, for girls and young women to have this kind of forum.
Well, what we've found, Julian, is while you have a lot of women in IT, in positions such as data entry clerk, receptionists, operators, we didn't see sufficient women in leadership positions across ICT platforms in ICT careers. And so even more so around the world, and in the Bahamas, we are making some strides. And so the ITU came up with this initiative to ensure that young women understood the importance of STEM in general, and that they recognize that careers in ICT can be and are as rewarding as careers in other sectors. And so we wanted them to understand that when you spoke about ICT, you were not just speaking about working in a telephone company, in a cable television company, or even in broadcasting, that ICT is underpinning just about any career that you can think of at the basis, enhancing. Look at what we're dealing with today, telemedicine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Telemedicine.
So relevant and important. Well,
very important.
Well,
very
maybe
timely.
I'm sure it's going to be an exciting time, and we wish you all the best and success for it. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Julian, for having us, and we look forward to seeing our young people register for the program tomorrow.
Absolutely. Great. Well, it is Earth Day today, and if you've been paying attention to stories from around the world since COVID-19 and the human print has been limited, the Earth has been breathing a lot better. Anyway, we have a special guest today to talk about what this means and how we can adapt so that we can live a little bit more in harmony with the Earth. Casuarina McKinney-Lambert is the Executive Director of BRIEF, and she is joining us from lockdown in Governor's Harbor, Eleuthera. Casuarina, how are you today, and happy Earth Day?
Great. Happy Earth Day to you, Julian, and happy Earth Day, Bahamas.
Great. Now, you've been noticing the changes as well since we've stopped doing what we normally do.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's worth pointing out that today is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. We've been celebrating Earth Day around the world for 50 years now, drawing attention to threats to our environment and really inspiring people to protect the world that sustains us. So the theme for Earth Day 2020 is climate action. It's climate action. And there's an enormous challenge. Climate change poses an enormous challenge for the Bahamas, but also huge opportunities for action. And because it is such an issue for our time, it has been identified as the most pressing topic for this really important 50th anniversary. And one of the discussion points is that, despite the huge difficulties associated with this pandemic, there have been global environmental benefits from these stay-at-home measures. There's been a marked decrease in levels of atmospheric air pollution. Air quality has improved around the world. They're saying that you can see the Himalayas from cities in India for the first time in decades because the air is cleaner now. And remember that 4.6 million people die every year from air pollution. Also, greenhouse gas. When we talk about climate change, this is what's driving climate change in the Bahamas and around the world. And greenhouse gas emissions have dropped dramatically.
Now, I'm going to be a little bit of a devil's advocate here because we here in the Bahamas and, of course, around the world now have had massive anti-plastic movements. But there have been some people who've been claiming that, whoa, those reusable bags can really attract the COVID-19 virus. What would you say to that?
I think it's time for us to get creative. We certainly don't encourage people to be using single-use plastics, but there are times when they are necessary. They're essential for medical equipment, and there are times when they're needed. We just, if there are alternatives, we encourage people to use those. Cardboard boxes are a perfect example for that. But I think it's a time to really look around and see what moves each of us can do to protect our environment on Earth Day. And as we recover from this pandemic, we need to use a climate resilient approach. We need to shift from being completely dependent on fossil fuels. We're the land of the sun right here. We should be using the sun to power our country. And drilling for oil in our pristine waters is definitely not the answer going forward. It's even more apparent given what's going on with this crisis happening right now.
Absolutely. And I have to ask this, since you are in Eleuthera, are Eleutherans complying with the guidelines to stay safe during COVID-19? At least in Governor's Harbor.
Absolutely. I've seen compliance all over the place, at least in Governor's Harbor. I have not been traveling the length of the island. But from day one of the 24-hour curfew, I have to give a shout out to Burroughs Grocery Store in Governor's Harbor. They are doing a fantastic job taking in orders on WhatsApp and then delivering boxes, cardboard boxes at that, right out to people's cars, and really being super careful and paying attention to all the orders that are in place.
Well, Kazarina, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry that we're running out of time, but happy Earth Day to you. And of course, people can always refer to any of the big organizations, but especially yours, if they want to find information about how to live more sustainably. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we've got more for you after the break. Stay with us.
The ZNS community page now has its own home on Channel 230. Be sure to tune into this channel to see informative notices, funeral announcements, birthday greetings, and much, much more. So watch the ZNS community channel today on Cable 230.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
School is closed, but we are not on vacation. Remember to stay at home to avoid the spread of COVID-19. Social distancing is very important. Remember, it's safer and smarter.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
Self-isolation means taking simple steps to avoid close contact with other people as much as possible, as you would with the seasonal flu. If you've been in close contact with somebody confirmed with COVID-19 or suspect that you have it, self-isolate for 14 days. You can self-isolate by staying indoors and away from family for 14 days. Choose a well-ventilated room with a closed door. Household members should stay in a different room, or if that is not possible, maintain a distance of at least 3 feet. Use a sealed waste basket and double bag your waste before disposal. Limit movement in your house. Stay in your assigned space away from the rest of the household. The caretaker will bring food and anything else you need. Use separate cookery and cutlery. Use a separate bathroom and clean it regularly. Use separate towels, separate cleaning linens, and clothing. If you are in need of care by household members, limit the number of caregivers. Assign one person who is in good health and has minimum risk conditions. Most importantly, remember, do not invite others over. Should you or anyone you know feel that you've been exposed to the coronavirus, contact the COVID-19 hotline at the Ministry of Health immediately. To reach us, call 376-9350, 376-9387, 300-2619, or our 24-hour hotline at 502-7382. For more information, visit covid19.gov.bs.
This public...
Welcome back. Well, we are going back to Exuma. As I said, the National Family Island Regatta should have started today, but due to COVID-19, that's been canceled really for this year. But we're now going to go to two representatives of the Exuma Sailing Club, Dallas Knowles and Reg Smith, who join us via Zoom. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Do you know what to
from Exuma?
Do you know what to do with yourself since you're not in the water today?
I should be up at 8 o'clock.
man. This is ridiculous.
But tell us about the preparation that goes into this.
Well, the preparation for our club in particular is pretty extensive. We would have had about 7 boats participating this week, 4 in the E class, 2 in the C class, and 1 in the B class. So, of course, that takes a whole lot of preparation to make sure all of those boats are ready to go in the water. All the sailors are where they need to be. And, I mean, I would say that I've been given a break, but I've still kept very busy making sure the boats are ready to go anyway, because it won't be long before we're sailing again. Who knows where it'll be, but at some point we'll come on the water again.
Reg Smith, any lessons we're learning out of this, even though COVID-19 is a rare phenomenon, let's say, and hopefully one that won't be with us next year, but anything we're learning out of this for future regattas or events?
Well, I think it has huge significance for what's going to come as far as regattas are concerned. I think Exumians will learn the true impact of regatta on the economy of Exuma. One thing I think a lot of people will feel this week, because if you listen to some of the vendors, they do pretty well this week. And so that's funds that they planned on that is not going to happen. That's one part of it. The other part of it, of course, is the broad effect of regatta. We only think about sailing, but the on-island, the island part of it, the on-land portion of it, down the Keys, Long Island, regatta affects all of the islands that participate. So it's a really strange feeling this week to not have regatta. Even the seagulls are complaining that, there's a regatta, because this is their time of plenty. When they arrive here in droves and they feed. And this year, Dallas, I don't know if I'm right, but we don't even have seagulls. We have a few, but they're not really piled in here. So it's an awakening for us. This is a big lesson. Regattas, and this goes out to all of our sailing community, regattas are not a have to be. Regattas are a fortunate thing for us. We need to understand that. We need to understand where government is with regattas, and maybe we can get into this before we leave. Regattas are going to change. We're not going back to what used to be. Next year's regattas will not be like in the past.
So Dallas knows
how many of these things will exist.
Let's bring Dallas back into tag onto that same point. It won't be the same next year. How will it be different?
Well, I think one thing I know as the sailors, we're appreciating the fact that regattas are more than just about the money and the payouts and all that. Even though, our club, personally, we would be missing out on a lot of our annual funding from this week alone because of all the boats we have sailing and the prize money. That helps fund our club almost for the entire year. But, I think more than anything, we miss the camaraderie and the brotherhood and just seeing all of our friends, all of our fellow sailors, and just being on the water and everything that comes with regatta. And I think we're realizing now that it's more about that and less about the things that we used to focus on before. The skippers meetings are, it's a lot of complaining, and everyone was focusing on $5 more food money this year. How come the food money hasn't gone? And a lot of guys are focusing, we were all focusing on the wrong thing. Now I think it's going to shift our focus back onto what's really important, and that's our heritage, our culture, traditional way of doing things in sailing, the impact on small communities around the Bahamas. So I think everyone's just going to appreciate it on a whole new level after this thing is over. And I think a lot of the grumblings that we've experienced over the years amongst ourselves mostly, I think hopefully those will go away a little bit, and we'll focus on what's really important, and that's just coming together to embrace this history that we've created.
Okay, well, back to you, Reg, now. Dallas just spoke about our heritage and culture. And of course, indeed, we're expecting that sailing will become the national sport of the Bahamas, which, of course, it should have been some time ago. How are young people reacting to this disappointment? Of course, there are a lot of young sailors in New Providence alone, so I can imagine what it's like in Exuma and in other islands that come to the National Family Island Regatta.
Well, actually, Dallas is closer to our students and can tell you maybe he can feel this better than I can. But I know from just listening to our chat over the last couple of weeks, these kids are hurting. They want to be on the water. Our kids, when a race is completed, the first thing they do is jump off the boat into the water. I mean, they almost love just being in the water. So that alone, I mean, it's traumatic for some of them, and they ask every day. I can see notes going back to Dallas, Coach, are we practicing this week? They want to get back. There's also some lessons that these kids are picking up from the weekly practices that they don't get. They're not getting that nurturing that they get from, if you see one of our classes or one of our weekend classes, I mean, this is a family, man. Mm-hmm. This is a family. These kids live for this.
And of course, having a family now.
This is painful.
Having a family.
We live for it.
Having a family now is more important than ever. Dallas, I'm going to give you the very last word, please. Since if you can just wrap it up for us, please.
Yeah, just piggybacking off what Reg said, we got about 25 kids, 30 kids in the club. A lot of them would have been competing this week for the first time in the National Family Island Regatta. Obviously, they're disappointed. And then just last week, we were supposed to have the Durwood Knolls Junior Championships. That also canceled. We were taking a pretty big team to Nassau. A lot of kids competing for the first time. The Sunfish Nationals, Off-Beat Championships, all of this stuff has been canceled or pushed back. Luckily, we were able to get our little local regatta off the ground in mid-March before all the lockdowns started. So the kids had one final time to be on the water over the weekend, racing each other and collecting their prizes before everything shut down. But yeah, definitely a lot of disappointment. The kids are hoping to get back on the water. So, Mr. Prime Minister, as soon as you lift some restrictions for us, we'll be more than happy to do it.
Well, Reg Smith and Dallas Knowles, thank you both.
If I can say one last thing.
Very quickly, because we're running out of time.
We want to say hello to all our fans, because this week we should have been broadcasting from here. So all around the world, those people who will be listening to us this week, we miss you too. Great. So hopefully we'll be back next year with the broadcast.
We wish you all well and can't wait for next year. Well, that is it for us this day, this Wednesday, the 22nd of April. We just want you to know that tomorrow, the 23rd of April, Thursday at 5 p.m., the Ministry of Health will have another update as far as developments in COVID-19 are concerned. Of course, it will be aired right here on the ZNS network, and we suggest that you tune in so you can keep abreast with what's going on in our country as far as COVID-19 is concerned. Until then, I'm Julian Reid on behalf of our team. Have a good day.